Jake's footsteps echoed against the cracked concrete as he pulled into his driveway, the late evening shadows swallowing the familiar outlines of his quiet suburban street. The soft hum of cicadas filled the air, but something felt off. His heart thumped harder when he noticed his garage doors were wide open. That wasn't right. He never left them open. A chill crawled up his spine as he walked toward the garage, his senses sharpening with each step. The familiar scent of motor oil and sawdust was gone, replaced by something unnatural, like damp earth, and something metallic. Inside, his garage had been transformed into a bizarre Jurassic diorama. Faint green and orange lights flickered eerily, casting jagged shadows across the walls. At the center, perched on a makeshift pedestal, was a cluster of large glowing eggs that pulsed softly like they were alive. Around them, life-sized velociraptor statues, complete with sharp teeth and glinting eyes, were positioned as if guarding a nest. Mechanical growls and low snarls emitted from hidden speakers, sending vibrations through the floor. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was like he'd stepped into some twisted theme park attraction. But this wasn't supposed to be here. This was his garage. A sudden noise behind him made Jake spin. Across the street, standing like a statue with arms crossed, was Karen, his HOA president. Her usual pristine white blouse was tucked perfectly into her pencil skirt, but her eyes gleamed with an unsettling mix of triumph and something darker. "Well, Jake," she called out with a sharp smile that didn't reach her eyes, "welcome to the future of our neighborhood. This is our community's new identity. Your garage just happens to be the perfect centerpiece." Jake's jaw tightened. "Karen, you can't just take over my property. This is illegal." Karen shrugged, stepping closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Illegal? No, Jake, it's community spirit. We're building something bigger than ourselves. Something unforgettable. You're either with us or against us." Neighbors had begun to gather, some curious, some hesitant, peeking from behind curtains and across the street. The murmur of their whispered questions only added to the heavy tension in the air. Jake clenched his fists. He'd known Karen was a control freak, obsessed with the HOA rules and her vision for the neighborhood, but this was something else entirely. This was a takeover, and it was personal. A sudden mechanical hiss made Jake jump. One of the Raptors shifted, its glowing eyes locking onto him. The surreal horror of the scene hit him like a punch. Karen wasn't just creating a silly exhibit, she was staking a claim. His garage, his sanctuary, was now a cage. The question that burned in Jake's mind, as Karen's victorious smile lingered, was simple and terrifying. How far was she willing to go to make her fantasy a reality? And what would happen to him if he dared to fight back? The night had turned into a trap, and Jake was right in the middle of it. Jake spent a restless night pacing his living room, the flickering glow from the garage's Raptor exhibit leaking through the curtains like a sinister beacon. By morning, the neighborhood had already absorbed the news. Karen's Jurassic initiative was no longer a rumor, and it was spreading, starting with his garage. He stepped outside, wary. The once familiar street felt charged, electric with hushed conversations and sideways glances. Some neighbors nodded politely, but Jake caught the nervous tightness in their smiles. Others averted their eyes, unwilling or too afraid to get involved. Karen's influence was stronger than anyone had realized. His mailbox was stuffed with HOA notices. One bore an official seal and a thick packet titled Jurassic Community Compliance Guidelines. It detailed rules about participation in the neighborhood's new thematic vision, citing clauses Jake had never agreed to. The implication was clear: resist, and penalties would follow. Jake stormed to the HOA office, hoping to find reason, but the receptionist's polite smile did little to mask her hesitation. When he finally met with board member Helen, she delivered a chilling reminder: the HOA works for the good of the community. Resistance only breeds division. Jake's protests about property rights and personal freedom were met with bland reassurances and vague references to community consensus. The board was a fortress of polite words and closed doors, and Karen was its unyielding queen. Back at home, the invasion continued. Overnight, Karen's team had installed new decorations, fox dinosaur footprints leading from the sidewalk to Jake's driveway, banners proclaiming "Welcome to the Jurassic neighborhood." Even the streetlights flickered green, bathing the cul-de-sac in an eerie glow. Jake felt trapped in a nightmare. His garage was no longer his sanctuary, but a stage for a show he hadn't auditioned for. Each day, Karen's raptor fantasy crept closer to his front door, daring him to fight or submit. One afternoon, as Jake was inspecting a suspiciously placed surveillance camera hidden among the fake foliage, his phone buzzed with a cryptic message. "Not everything is as it seems. Watch your back." The warning unsettled him. Who was watching? Karen's HOA enforcers, a rogue neighbor, or someone else entirely? That evening, Jake overheard a heated conversation between Karen and a man in a dark suit, their words sharp and urgent. "If he doesn't comply," the man warned, "things will get messy." Karen's voice hardened. "He'll fall in line. He has no choice." Jake's mind raced. The stakes had escalated beyond neighborhood decor. This was a power play, a battle for control masked by plastic dinosaurs and community spirit. As days passed, Jake found himself under subtle surveillance. Familiar cars parked suspiciously near his home. Strangers appeared in the neighborhood, asking questions with too much interest in his routines. Every knock on the door felt like a challenge. But Jake wasn't ready to surrender. Beneath the creeping fear, a spark of defiance ignited. He would find a way to reclaim his garage and expose whatever dark secret Karen was hiding behind her Jurassic mask. The question lingering in his mind was more urgent than ever. How deep did this raptor fantasy really go, and who else was caught in its trap? Jake's unease grew with every passing day, the boundary between neighborly normalcy and something sinister dissolving like mist at dawn. The glowing eggs in his garage pulsed faintly even in daylight, casting shifting shadows that seemed almost alive. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching him. One evening, after locking up for the night, Jake noticed a small blinking light nestled beneath a raptor statue. Kneeling, he discovered a tiny camera, its lens gleaming coldly back at him. It wasn't just a neighborhood theme, it was surveillance. His garage, his private space, had become a fishbowl under Karen's unblinking gaze. That night, Jake's phone buzzed with a new message, this time with no sender. "The eggs are not what they seem. Find the truth before it's too late." His pulse quickened. Who was sending these warnings? And why? Determined to understand what he was dealing with, Jake began carefully examining the exhibit. The eggs, despite their glowing allure, felt unnaturally cold and heavy. Touching one sent a shiver through his fingers, as if it were charged with something hidden beneath the plastic surface. In the days that followed, Jake became a silent observer of his neighborhood's transformation. The raptor motif had spread beyond his garage, fake claws etched into sidewalks, ominous footprints leading to neighbors' homes, and strange raptor-themed murals appearing overnight. Some residents seemed to embrace the oddity, while others exchanged worried glances, afraid to speak out. Jake's suspicions deepened when he overheard a whispered conversation between Karen and another woman during a community meeting. "They're watching," Karen said, her voice low and tense. "The eggs are the key. If we lose control, everything falls apart." What did Karen mean? Control of what? Jake's mind reeled with possibilities. Late one night, unable to sleep, Jake returned to his garage and shone a flashlight inside. The eggs glowed faintly in the beam, revealing subtle cracks that had gone unnoticed in the daylight. Curious, he gently tapped one. To his shock, it emitted a faint pulse, not mechanical, but almost organic, like a heartbeat. Suddenly, a hidden panel in the back wall slid open with a soft click, revealing a small compartment filled with papers and a hard drive. His hands trembled as he grabbed the items, heart pounding with a mix of fear and curiosity. Back inside, Jake connected the hard drive to his laptop. Files spilled onto the screen, video footage, cryptic notes, and surveillance logs that detailed not just his garage, but the entire neighborhood. The footage showed secret meetings, strange deliveries at night, and Karen overseeing the installation of devices far beyond simple decorations. Jake realized Karen's Raptor fantasy was a front, an elaborate cover for something far darker. The eggs weren't just props, they were surveillance hubs, collecting data, monitoring every move. But to what end? His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. A cold dread settled in his chest. Was it Karen, the HOA, or someone else, warning him to stop digging? Jake's world had shifted from neighborhood quirkiness to a dangerous game of secrets and lies. The question now was, how deep did the Raptor fantasy go? And could he uncover the truth before it swallowed him whole? Jake didn't answer the knock. Instead, he held his breath, heart pounding as the sharp rap echoed again, more insistent this time. He glanced through the peephole, but saw only shadows. When he finally cracked the door open just a crack, a flash of movement vanished into the twilight. The mysterious visitor was gone, but the warning was clear. Someone was watching Jake, and they wanted him to stop digging. The next day, Jake sought out Maya, the sharp-witted neighbor who had always seemed just a bit apart from the crowd. Rumor had it she was once a journalist, though no one in the neighborhood talked much about her past. Jake found her pruning roses in her immaculate front yard, eyes sharp as ever. "Maya," he said quietly, lowering his voice, "I need your help. Something's wrong with this HOA, and Karen's not just playing dress-up with dinosaurs. There's surveillance, secret meetings. It's bigger than any of us." Maya's gaze sharpened, her lips pressing into a thin line. "I've been watching too," she admitted, glancing around before pulling Jake closer. "Karen's obsession with control runs deeper than anyone knows. I've been gathering evidence, emails, photos, even recordings of late-night talks. She's not just protecting a neighborhood fantasy, she's hiding something dangerous." Together, they pored over the files Jake had retrieved, the surveillance videos, encrypted notes, and strange references to a Project Raptor. The footage showed Karen orchestrating nighttime installations, her team planting devices disguised as part of the exhibit. Some devices were clearly for audio and video surveillance, but others emitted faint signals Jake couldn't identify. Maya pulled out a map of the neighborhood, marking every Raptor installation and surveillance node. "Look at this," she said. "It's a network, a control grid. Karen's creating a system to monitor and manipulate the entire community." Jake's stomach twisted. But why? What does she hope to gain from all this? Maya's eyes darkened. Power, influence, and maybe something else. "I've heard whispers about Karen's personal life, how she lost control of her own family. And this HOA fantasy is her desperate attempt to rebuild that control." Their alliance was fragile but necessary. They began covertly talking to other neighbors, those who'd felt Karen's tightening grip but feared retaliation. Slowly, a web of quiet resistance began to form. But with every step they took, the shadows around them grew darker. One night, Jake returned home to find a Raptor figurine smashed on his doorstep, a warning. "You're playing a dangerous game." A note scrawled in jagged handwriting warned, "Stop now, or else." The threat only steeled their resolve. Jake and Maya knew they were up against more than just an overbearing HOA president. They were facing a woman unraveling her own past, willing to do anything to keep her secrets buried. As they prepared to dig deeper, the question loomed larger. Could they expose Karen's scheme before the entire neighborhood became a cage? The night air was thick with tension, heavy enough to suffocate. Jake double-checked the locks on his front door before slipping into the garage. The Raptor exhibit, now a haunting reminder of Karen's control, stood eerily silent in the dim light, the glowing eggs casting ghostly reflections on the walls. He felt eyes on him, though he knew he was alone. Suddenly, a crashing sound shattered the stillness. Jake lunged toward the source, its heart racing. One of the large Velociraptor statues lay shattered across the floor, plastic shards glinting like broken glass. But more alarming was the absence of something. The small, locked box he had hidden beneath the pedestal was gone. His pulse thundered in his ears. That box contained a USB drive with damning evidence against Karen. Whoever had broken in knew exactly what to take. A cold sweat trickled down Jake's spine as the realization sank in. This wasn't a random act of vandalism. It was a calculated strike. The following day, Jake met Maya at the local cafe, their faces taut with worry. He slid the cracked plastic shards across the table. They came looking for the evidence. Someone's watching our every move. Maya nodded grimly. Karen's network runs deeper than we thought. And now, she's targeting anyone who threatens her. Together, they pieced together a plan to track down the stolen data. Maya had contacts from her old investigative days, people who could hack into the HOA security systems and uncover digital footprints. But it was risky. If Karen caught wind, the consequences could be severe. As the days passed, the neighborhood's mood shifted. Whispers of the vandalism spread like wildfire, igniting fear and suspicion. Neighbors eyed one another with growing mistrust, and Karen's smile grew colder, more calculated. One evening, Jake caught a glimpse of Karen speaking in hushed tones with a man in a dark suit, the same stranger from before. Their conversation was cut and tense, laced with threats Jake couldn't quite hear. It was clear Karen was prepared to escalate, no matter the cost. The pressure mounted when Jake received a chilling phone call. The voice on the other end was distorted, cold as ice. "Stop digging, Jake. Some things are better left buried." But Jake refused to back down. Fueled by adrenaline and the need for justice, he and Maya worked tirelessly, digging through encrypted files and piecing together fragments of the HOA's covert operations. Slowly, a clearer picture emerged, a sprawling surveillance network designed not just to control property, but to manipulate residents, suppress dissent, and hide Karen's own secrets. The climax approached when Jake received an anonymous tip. The USB drive was hidden in plain sight, disguised as part of the Raptor exhibit at the community center. Under the cover of darkness, Jake and Maya slipped into the community center, their hearts pounding as they searched. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like a threat. Finally, behind a false panel in the exhibit, Jake found the missing drive. But as they turned to leave, footsteps echoed ominously from the hallway. "Going somewhere?" Karen's voice sliced through the shadows. They were trapped. The community center buzzed with tension, thick enough to slice with a knife. The HOA meeting had drawn an unusually large crowd. Neighbors packed into folding chairs, faces taut with anxiety and suspicion. At the front, Karen stood poised, her usual confident smile replaced by a sharp, guarded expression. Jake and Maya slipped in quietly, clutching the recovered USB drive like a lifeline. The room fell silent as Karen began speaking. "Our neighborhood has never been stronger," she declared, voice steady but cold. "The Jurassic Initiative has united us, made us safer and more connected. Anyone who disagrees is disrupting our peace." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jake's pulse hammered. This was his moment. Rising slowly, he held up the USB drive. "This isn't unity. It's control. Karen's been spying on us, monitoring our every move, manipulating the community with fear." The room erupted. Some neighbors gasped. Others exchanged shocked glances. Karen's eyes narrowed. "That's a lie," she snapped. "This evidence is fabricated by those who want chaos." Maya stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "We have the files, the footage. It shows Karen orchestrating surveillance, threatening neighbors and silencing dissent." Karen's mask slipped, her voice lowering to a harsh whisper. "You think you understand power? You don't know what it takes to hold this community together. Sometimes, sacrifices are necessary." Jake pressed play on his laptop. Grainy videos flickered on the projector. Karen's team planting hidden cameras, secret meetings where neighbors were intimidated, and even a recorded phone call where Karen threatened retaliation against those who refused to comply. Gasps and whispers swept through the room. The tension became a living thing, heavy, oppressive. Suddenly, Karen slammed her fist on the podium. "Enough! You want chaos? Fine. But know this, the HOA is my domain, and I will protect it, no matter the cost." A fierce argument broke out. Supporters of Karen shouted, accusing Jake and Maya of stirring trouble. Others demanded answers, scared and confused. Amid the chaos, the door burst open. 2 police officers entered, faces stern. "We received reports of harassment and illegal surveillance," one announced. "An investigation is underway." Karen's eyes darted, calculating. The weight of her facade cracked, revealing desperation. Jake felt a rush of relief, but the room's atmosphere remained electric, uncertain. As the meeting adjourned, Maya whispered, "This is just the beginning. We've shaken the foundation, but the real battle is still ahead." Outside, neighbors lingered, some hesitant, some emboldened. Jake glanced back at Karen, whose gaze met his with a quiet fury. The war for their neighborhood's soul had only just begun. The morning after the explosive HOA meeting, the neighborhood was a different place. The tension that had simmered beneath polite smiles and manicured lawns erupted into whispered alliances and guarded conversations. Jake and Maya found themselves at the center of a fragile rebellion, neighbors seeking answers and a way out of Karen's shadow. Word of the police investigation spread quickly, but Karen wasn't ready to give up. She vanished from the neighborhood overnight, leaving behind only a chilling note pinned to the community bulletin board. "Control is never given up freely." It was a threat and a promise. With Karen gone, the HOA board splintered. Some members sought to distance themselves, while others clung to her vision, unwilling to admit defeat. Jake and Maya worked tirelessly, organizing meetings, rallying support to reclaim their neighborhood's freedom. The glowing dinosaur footprints faded from sidewalks, and the eerie green streetlights were replaced with warm, familiar bulbs. The community center's Jurassic exhibit was dismantled piece by piece, each raptor statue carefully stored away as a relic of a dark chapter. But even as the neighborhood breathed a tentative sigh of relief, Jake couldn't shake it gnawing unease. During a late-night walk, he found a small, crudely carved wooden raptor perched on his doorstep, a silent reminder that Karen's reach might still be lurking in the shadows. Maya shared his concerns. She may be gone, but her influence isn't. Someone else could pick up where she left off, or worse, she might be watching, waiting for the right moment to strike back. One afternoon, while sorting through old files from the HOA office, Jake stumbled across a hidden folder labeled Project Raptor, Phase 2. The documents hinted at a far larger plan, one that extended beyond their neighborhood, a blueprint for surveillance and control to be rolled out citywide. The implications sent a shiver down Jake's spine. Karen's fantasy wasn't just a local obsession, it was a prototype for something far more dangerous. Determined to stop it, Jake and Maya reached out to journalists, local officials, and privacy advocates, sharing what they had uncovered. Slowly, the story gained traction, sparking outrage and calls for reform. Yet, as the neighborhood healed, a new question lingered in the air, heavier than ever. Could a community truly be free when shadows of control lurked just beneath the surface? And who could they trust to protect their future? Late one evening, Jake's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You've won the battle, but the war is far from over. Watch the skies." As Jake looked up, the last light of day faded behind darkening clouds. The neighborhood quiet, but forever changed. The Raptors were gone. But their legacy was just beginning. The weeks following Karen's disappearance were a whirlwind of cleanup and cautious optimism. Neighborhood block parties replaced tense HOA meetings, and the usual hum of lawnmowers filled the air instead of whispered warnings. Jake and Maya worked tirelessly, helping neighbors reclaim their homes and their peace. But beneath the surface of normalcy, an unsettling feeling lingered, like the calm before a storm. One evening, as Jake locked up his garage, he noticed something strange. The raptor figurine Maya had found on his doorstep was missing. In its place was a small envelope, sealed with a symbol he didn't recognize, a stylized claw mark encircling an eye. His hands trembled as he tore it open. Inside was a single photograph, a drone's aerial shot of the entire neighborhood, taken from high above, with red dots marking several homes, including his and Maya's. On the back, a chilling message was scrawled, "Watching never ends." Jake's mind raced. Who had sent this? Karen, an unknown faction, or someone even more sinister who had been lurking in the shadows all along? Determined to uncover the truth, Jake and Maya followed the clues in the photo. Using contacts from their earlier investigations, they traced the drone's flight path to a secluded farmhouse on the outskirts of town, a place no one had paid much attention to before. Under the cover of darkness, they approached the farmhouse. Inside, they found a wall covered in maps, photos, and documents, evidence of an expansive surveillance network far beyond the HOA's reach. The room hummed with electronic equipment, monitors flickering with live feeds from dozens of neighborhoods across the city. Suddenly, a voice echoed from a hidden speaker. "Impressive work, Jake, but you're only seeing the surface." A figure stepped out from the shadows, a man in a tailored suit, calm and composed. Karen was a pawn in a larger game. The Raptor fantasy was just the beginning. Jake's heart pounded. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man smiled thinly. "Control. Power. The city is ripe for management by those who understand the value of oversight. You disrupted my project here, but many others will follow." Before Jake could respond, the man pressed a button. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and the farmhouse doors slammed shut. "You've triggered the next phase," he warned. "The eyes are everywhere, and soon there will be no place to hide." Jake and Maya exchanged a determined glance. Their fight wasn't over. It had only just escalated. As they prepared to confront this new threat, Jake glanced once more at the claw mark symbol etched into the envelope, a reminder that the nightmare born from Karen's obsession had spread far beyond the quiet neighborhood. Outside, the city's skyline shimmered with lights, and unseen watchers continued their relentless vigil. The question that haunted Jake as they fled the farmhouse was clear and chilling. In a world where privacy was an illusion, how does one truly reclaim freedom?